In this episode, Charo, Natalia, and Chris remain in the dungeon after Charo successfully defeated a monster. They wait for Chris to regain consciousness. Charo asks Natalia about the contents of her favorite bag. Natalia shares that she has an older sister and inquires if Charo has heard from Alan about the case involving the Evans family. Charo reveals that she knows about Natalia's older sister committing a grave crime. However, Natalia immediately refutes this, stating that her sister would never commit such an act, not even harming a bug. She firmly believes that it was the prince who framed her sister. Despite this, the Evans family chose to cast her sister aside. Charo checks if Natalia harbors resentment toward her sister. Natalia assures that she could never hate her sister. She only blames the Evans family and feels guilty for not being able to save her. Natalia begins to reminisce that her sister had always been kind to her since she was born, and she feels powerless for not being able to do anything now. She had hoped to save her sister when she grew older, but she couldn't, and now her sister has disappeared without a trace. After the incident, all of her sister's personal belongings were discarded, leaving only those in her favorite bag. With these items, she can tell that her sister is still alive due to a spell she cast. Natalia vows to confront and punish whoever has captured her sister. Charo is surprised and asks how Natalia knows that someone has captured her sister. Natalia explains that whenever a strong force hinders her magic, she is convinced that it's the vile person who kidnapped her sister and interfered with her spell. Natalia promises to find this person and tear them apart. She is determined to reunite with her sister someday. For that, she must become stronger. Charo encourages her, believing that Natalia will surely find her sister. Natalia finds it strange because she has only known Charo for a short time, yet she feels a sense of nostalgia. Suddenly, Chris regained consciousness and tearfully apologized to Natalia, having heard her entire story and expressing remorse for his foolishness. Overwhelmed with guilt, he knelt and repeatedly knocked his head. The most pressing matter now was to escape the dungeon. It seemed their commotion had awakened a monster within the dungeon, a salamander that was the dungeon's boss. Chris looked panicked. Charo asked Natalia to call Alan while she would try to lure the monster away. However, Natalia was concerned as the monster was extremely dangerous. Charo promised to protect her and asked Natalia to help Chris, whose leg was injured. Still, Natalia refused to leave Charo alone with the monster. Charo sternly told Natalia to follow her orders. Chris then persuaded Natalia to leave with him. Meanwhile, Charo attempted to attack the salamander to lure it towards her. Unfortunately, the salamander's firepower was immense, overpowering Charo. Due to the fiery attack, Charo's disguise spell faded, revealing her true form as Charlotte, the older sister Natalia had been searching for. Natalia watched in horror as her sister was rendered helpless. Just as the salamander was about to finish Charlotte off, Alan intervened, using his immense power to defeat the salamander that had harmed Charlotte. Natalia and Chris witnessed the true power of a great demon lord. His strength was so immense that it shook the entire island. Alan's father and Aruka learned of Alan's actions, hoping that the school building had not been destroyed due to Alan's power. Alan then made the salamander remember him. Natalia and Chris were amazed to see the once aggressive salamander now affectionately nuzzling Alan. Liz arrived, reminding them that students were not allowed in this area, only monster research teachers could enter. Natalia questioned Liz about the peculiar behavior of the salamander. Liz explained that the salamander, named Pouchy, had been raised by Alan since it was an egg. Alan carried the unconscious Charlotte, acknowledging her sacrifice for her younger sister. Chris admitted his mistake and apologized to the school principal, willing to accept any punishment. Natalia approached Alan and Charlotte. Alan remarked on the touching reunion. Using his magic, Alan awakened Charlotte. She approached Natalia, who had been deeply concerned for her. Only then did Charlotte realize she had been in her disguise as Charlotte in front of Natalia. Charlotte apologized for deceiving and burdening Natalia. Natalia found it hard to believe the woman before her was truly her sister. To verify, she asked about a picture book her sister often read to her. Charlotte recalled a storybook about children visiting a zoo, which had somehow gone missing, perhaps discarded. Natalia had kept it all along in her bag, requesting to hear the story just once more. Charlotte embraced Natalia, apologizing for not being able to protect her. They both expressed their apologies for leaving each other. Everyone witnessed this heartwarming conclusion. Natalia expressed her gratitude to Alan for saving her and Charlotte's lives. Charlotte referred to Alan as her savior and a very precious person. Suddenly, Lou and Gosetsu jokingly mentioned that Alan was Charlotte's boyfriend. Charlotte immediately denied it in front of Natalia. Out of the blue, Natalia launched an attack on Alan. She believed that Alan had been using magic to avoid Charlotte and that he had approached her from the beginning with the intention of dating Charlotte. Natalia also questioned Alan about his intentions towards her beloved sister. Misunderstanding the situation and reacting strongly, Natalia continued her assault on Alan. Alan sought help from the others to stop Natalia, but they all just watched, choosing not to get involved and heading to the cafeteria instead. Alan's parents had just learned that Alan and Charlotte's alleged relationship was a lie. It was a pity as they actually had mutual feelings. Seeing the quarrel between Natalia and Alan, Charlotte could only smile as she watched. Alan, Natalia, Lou, and Gosetsu returned to Alan's residence. It had been a while since they relaxed, feeling peaceful and serene now that the previous issues were resolved. However, something still bothered Alan. He was curious about why Charlotte had asked him about his feelings that night. Charlotte felt the same way and wanted to revisit the topic. Just as they were about to discuss it, Mayacha suddenly surprised them by arriving with an anonymous package. After handing it over, Mayacha swiftly exited through the window. Upon opening the package, they found drawings of magic circles inside. Alan activated one of the magic circles, resulting in a portal appearing above them. It was a summoning spell. As Alan shielded Charlotte, Natalia unexpectedly emerged from the portal, landing directly in front of him. Charlotte approached Natalia, puzzled about how she had ended up there. It turned out to be a surprise that Aluka and Mayacha had planned. Aluka and Mayacha appeared through the window, explaining that Natalia had wanted to visit Charlotte at Alan's residence. Aluka had suggested turning it into a surprise. Natalia began searching for Alan, eager to confront him. Unbeknownst to her, she had stepped on him upon her arrival. Natalia wanted to argue with Alan, hoping he would end his relationship with Charlotte. Charlotte intervened, urging Natalia not to resort to violence. To Natalia, it was merely warm communication with Alan's favorite student. Alan objected to Natalia referring to herself as his favorite student. As the homeowner, he believed he had the final say on matters. He attempted to eject Natalia, who was also ready to spar using her magical powers. However, Dorothea suddenly arrived, seeking assistance. Aluka and Mayacha were surprised to see the renowned novelist Dorothea present. Natalia recognized her too. Upon hearing this, Dorothea blushed due to her fame. She brought along her latest novel. Natalia was puzzled about Charlotte's acquaintance with the novelist. Charlotte explained that she was the previous owner of the residence. The novel in question was the latest installment about Alan and Charlotte, and its success prompted Dorothea's desire to write a sequel. She inquired if there had been any progress in Alan and Charlotte's relationship. Dorothea's editor pressured her to produce the sequel, and Dorothea pleaded to hide out in the residence. Alan refused, recalling the damage to his walls the last time. Aluka and Mayacha insisted, especially since Natalia would be staying the night to ensure Alan didn't corrupt her older sister again. Lou and Gosetsu were thrilled at the prospect of Natalia staying over, with Gosetsu even preparing a special meal for the occasion. Alan was frustrated that decisions were being made without his consent. Nonetheless, he reluctantly agreed. They all shared a meal together, enjoying the camaraderie. Charlotte had a dream about her past again, where she was accused of theft and confined in a room below. She felt the darkness and fear all over again, but suddenly someone called her name. Breaking through the darkness, it was Alan, coming to rescue her. Startled, Charlotte woke up from her slumber. Everyone was sound asleep. She left her room and approached Alan, who was engrossed in reading a book. Natalia wanted to be with Alan, so he invited her to engage in mischief only possible at night. Alan lit some lanterns and prepared warm cocoa. They drank together while gazing at the stars. Unfortunately, Alan didn't understand much about constellations. He only knew about the influence of star positions, dismissing star signs and mythology as mere nonsense. Charlotte pointed out the locations of the Urva and Hell's Capybara constellations, but Alan only saw them as dots. Suddenly, a shooting star streaked across the sky, and Charlotte pointed it out. As Alan watched, their hands touched. There was no awkwardness between them, and they held hands. Charlotte thanked Alan, mentioning that sipping cocoa and stargazing at night felt mischievous. However, to Alan, it was just a simple thing. He intended to continue teaching Charlotte various mischievous acts. Charlotte expressed her anticipation for each new day, looking forward to the happiness Alan would bring. She felt immensely grateful to have met Alan. Alan adjusted Charlotte's blanket to keep her warm. Their faces drew closer, as if they were about to kiss. Suddenly, Alan exclaimed for everyone to leave. He knew that everyone in the house was spying on them. They all emerged from their hiding spots. Aluka commented on how Alan and Charlotte seemed so warm that they forgot about the cold night. Gosetsu and Lu teased Alan, suggesting he whispered words of love under the starry sky and monopolized Charlotte while they were all asleep. Although Alan denied the accusation, they noticed he was still holding Charlotte's hand. They all playfully wanted to confront Alan for getting close to Charlotte. Accepting their challenge, Alan unleashed his power. That was how their night unfolded with excitement. Meanwhile, in the Kingdom of Niels, the former fiancé of Charlotte received a report from a spy revealing Charlotte's whereabouts. The prince ordered his men to capture Charlotte.